Just as the thick air of tension clung to the palace walls, Kyung-hoon's voice rang with authority. He wasted no time. Min-suk, he called, his voice sharp, assemble the soldiers and archers. Defend the kingdom walls. No one from the Ean Empire gets in. Min-suk gave a curt nod, already turning on his heel to follow the command, but Kyung-hoon was just about to leave when he heard it, a strangled cry from behind. Min-seo had regained consciousness, and she was in pain. She clutched her stomach, her face twisted in agony. It hurts. It hurts, please. Bring Tae-jin. I need Tae-jin. She sobbed, her hands trembling as she reached out. Ji-hyun, though startled, held her, his voice steady and soothing. You're okay, Min-seo. You'll be alright. Let's get you somewhere safe. With the help of a few guards, they gently lifted her and began leading her into one of the inner chambers of the palace. Kyung-hoon and Min-suk followed close behind, their footsteps hurried, their faces painted with worry. Just before they could enter the room, Sun-hee appeared in the hallway, breathless, eyes wide with concern. What's wrong with Min-seo? She doesn't look good, she said, glancing toward Min-seo's pale, sweat-covered face. Min-suk hesitated for a second. Your Majesty, the Ean Empire is still at our gates, he reminded Kyung-hoon, panic flickering in his voice. I know, Kyung-hoon replied without stopping. But this is important. Inside the room, everything was chaos. Min-seo's screams grew louder, echoing off the walls like thunder in a storm. Her body writhed on the bed, her legs soaked in fluid and blood. Ji-hyun froze for a second. The sight caught him completely off guard. She's bleeding, why is she bleeding like that? Before anyone could answer, the palace physician burst through the doors, dropping his medical satchel as he rushed to Min-seo's side. He took one look and immediately sprang into action, pressing her belly gently, checking her pulse, inspecting the mess of blood and water around her. She's in labor, he announced. The entire room fell silent. Ji-hyun blinked in disbelief. She's what? The shock spread like wildfire. But, how? Someone whispered. Ji-hyun's gaze darted to Kyung-hoon, eyes full of accusation. You. I never touched her, Kyung-hoon cut in, his face hard. Not once. Everyone looked again at Min-seo, confused until the physician, with a frown, gently began cutting through her outer robe. What they saw made everyone gasp. Beneath the fabric was a tightly wrapped cloth, bound around her belly, so firm it had flattened the swell completely. Ji-hyun's mouth opened slightly in shock. She had been hiding the pregnancy, binding herself every single day. What was she thinking? Son, he whispered, horrified. The physician's expression darkened. This is why she's losing so much blood. She compressed her womb, cut off proper development. The child may not have been receiving enough oxygen or nutrients. And if she received no prenatal care, he trailed off, before looking at Kyung-hoon directly. We need to get the baby out now. Now. Or we might lose both of them. Everyone in the room stood frozen, except Min-seo, who kept screaming through gritted teeth, soaked in sweat and agony. Her voice broke. Tae-jin. Please, where is Tae-jin? Kyung-hoon didn't wait. Find Tae-jin. He barked at one of the servants. Search the entire palace if you have to, bring him here, now. The servant took off running. The physician wasted no time. Though not a midwife, he delivered just enough babies to know that time was not on their side. He rolled up his sleeves, barked out orders with urgency, and instructed Ji-hyun, Sun-hee, and two maids to stay and assist. Their eyes were wide with fear, but they obeyed without hesitation. Get towels. Warm water. And keep her talking, he snapped, as Min-seo's screams rattled the very walls. Blood soaked the floor beneath her as her body trembled violently, pain and fear written all over her pale face. Outside the room, Kyung-hoon and Min Suk lingered with heavy hearts. Min Suk paced like a caged animal. This shouldn't be happening. Not now, he muttered, rubbing his temples. Kyung-hoon let out a long sigh, the weight of leadership pressing down on his shoulders. I know. But the Een won't act just yet. They came for a reason, they want something, he said calmly, though the lines around his eyes betrayed his own worry. And until I speak with them, they'll wait. Min Suk turned to him sharply, the question burning on his tongue. Is Tae-jin, is he the father? There was a pause. Kyung-hoon didn't speak. He didn't need to. His silence was the answer. Meanwhile, far from the palace's bloodied halls and war-torn tension, deep within a quiet house nestled on the mountainside, the great seer Haru sat cross-legged in silence. Candles flickered around him, casting dancing shadows on the scroll-covered walls. His eyes were closed, but his spirit was wide awake. As if peering through time itself, Haru's lips moved in a whisper only the universe could understand. He already knew what was coming. The baby. The war. The betrayal. Everything. And yet, he didn't move. Didn't rush. He simply waited, as if destiny itself was drawing breath before it exhaled chaos. Meanwhile, far from the palace, Dae Hyun burst into Sungmin's estate, his chest heaving, eyes wide with alarm. He barely caught his breath before blurting out the news. The Een Empire, they're here. Right outside our kingdom wall. They've set up camp. Looks like they're preparing for war. His voice shook with urgency, and even he couldn't believe what he was saying, it all happened so fast. No warning, no time to prepare. But Sungmin, pale and still struggling from illness, didn't flinch. Despite his weakened state, he stood upright, leaning slightly on a cane as if the news didn't faze him at all. His tone was eerily calm. Then Kyung-hoon's finished, he said. At least a quarter of that army answers to me. They won't lift a finger unless I say so. If the Een crushes him, I'll strike. I'll take the kingdom for myself. Dae Hyun's face twisted with disbelief and fury. What about Ji-yoon? You're willing to let your own son fall. If Kyung-hoon is defeated, Ji-yoon will go down with him. Do you even care about that? Those words hit like a slap. Sungmin fell silent. His eyes shifted to the floor as if he was only just realizing the gravity of what he said. For a moment, the scheming ambition faded from his face, replaced by something softer. Worry. Regret. Maybe even shame. He didn't say another word. He just stared, deep in thought. Back at the palace, tension thickened like fog. Tae-jin came rushing into the hallway, breathless and frantic after being summoned by Kyung-hoon. But he had no idea what was waiting for him. He launched right into his report, his voice tight with concern. Kyung-hoon, something's wrong. We're missing soldiers. A lot of them. Out of 500,000 men, at least 100,000 are gone. I don't know where they are, but if we go to war like this. Kyung-hoon held up a hand to stop him, then exchanged a look with Min Suk. Tae-jin, Kyung-hoon said gently, there's something you need to know. And that's when the world seemed to pause. Min Suk added quietly, Min Seo, she's in labor. Right now. Tae-jin blinked, confused. Labor? What do you mean labor? Kyung-hoon sighed, his voice low but firm. She's pregnant, Tae-jin. The baby is yours. Tae-jin froze, staring at them like he hadn't heard right. The shock was instant. His lips parted, but no words came out. I didn't know, he finally muttered. It must be that night. I'd had too much to drink. Min Seo and we lost control. Kyung-hoon didn't scold him. Instead, he nodded with understanding. He knew Tae-jin cared deeply for Min Seo. She didn't tell me, Tae-jin said, voice cracking with guilt. But now, it all makes sense. The way she looked at me. The time she asked if I loved her. He trailed off, his eyes misting over. She was trying to see if I'd choose her. If I'd accept her and the child. He covered his face with both hands, trembling from the weight of his own mistakes. But Kyung-hoon stepped forward and placed a hand on his shoulder. You still have a chance to do right by her, he said. Once the baby is born, I'll give you both a way out. You can leave together. Be a family. Tae-jin looked up, stunned. He nodded, swallowing back tears. Thank you, thank you. And then, the palace fell into a heavy stillness. Outside, the Een army waited like shadows on the edge of dawn. No movement. No noise. Just silent tension, like a string pulled taut. Inside, the cries of labor echoed faintly through the halls. Every second felt like an hour. Every breath held tight in the lungs. The fate of the kingdom now hung in limbo. Inside the room, the air was thick with tension. Min Seo's cries of labor had finally ended, replaced by an eerie silence. She had given birth to a baby boy. But the relief was short-lived. The physician moved quickly, checking the baby. His expression was grim. He's not breathing, he said, and the words hung heavy in the air like a curse. The baby is dead. Min Seo broke down immediately, sobbing uncontrollably. It's my fault, she wept, her face twisted in grief. I tied my stomach, to hide him. I squished him. I killed my baby. The entire room froze. But not Ji-Hyun. He didn't move, his eyes stayed fixed on the tiny, motionless baby, as if he refused to accept the physician's words. Slowly, he walked forward, knelt beside the baby, and picked him up with trembling hands. No, he whispered, holding the cold little body close. No, you're not gone. You hear me? You're not gone. Everyone watched in painful silence as Ji-Hyun gently whispered into the baby's ear. No one knew what he said. Then, something happened. Tiny fingers moved. They reached out, slowly, weakly, and wrapped around Ji-Hyun's pinky. Gasps filled the room. The baby had responded. Ji-Hyun looked up, eyes wide with disbelief, holding back tears. He's alive. But the joy was short-lived. The baby's chest barely rose with each breath, his breathing was labored and faint. The physician rushed forward, checking again, before shaking his head. He may not survive the night. He was born too early, and with his body crushed like that, it's a miracle he's even breathing. That's when Ji-Hyun snapped. He turned sharply to Min Seo, his voice cracking with anger. How could you? How could you do this to your own child? Min Seo's face crumpled. Her eyes were swollen from crying, her body still weak from labor. I was scared, she sobbed. If they knew I was carrying Tae-jin's child, they would have beheaded me. I didn't want to die. Her breathing suddenly hitched, short, shallow gasps, and her body trembled. Something was wrong. She choked out, reaching for Ji-Hyun. Please, get Tae-jin. I want to see him. Please. Ji-Hyun stared at her, his anger slowly fading as panic took over. And so, the doors opened. Kyung-hoon, Tae-jin, and Min Suk were finally let inside. The room smelled faintly of blood and herbs, but it was the sight before them that made their hearts halt. The baby lay swaddled, tiny and fragile, breathing with great effort, but alive. Tae-jin's eyes softened instantly, drawn to the little one like a moth to flame. He slowly walked past the others until he stood by Min Seo's bedside, where she looked deathly pale, her lips chapped, her skin glistening with sweat. With trembling lips, he asked, Why didn't you tell me? Min Seo smiled faintly, tiredly, and whispered, Because I was scared. But then, she paused. Her eyes flickered with honesty, the kind that only comes when someone knows their time is near. No, That's not the full truth, she said softly. I was greedy. Everyone went still. Min Seo looked down in shame. I let my father's words get to me. Lady Han's, too. I wanted power, Dae Hyun. I craved it so badly that I ignored the right thing. I had money. I had options. I could have left this palace and raised my baby on my own. Even when you rejected me, I could have started over for him. But I used your rejection as an excuse to stay. To linger in this palace. Her eyes filled with tears. I even thought of pinning the child on Kyung Hoon, because deep down, I was still chasing power. Just like I did when I abandoned you years ago, because of my father's threats. The room was silent except for the faint cries of the baby and the wheeze in Min Seo's chest. I'm sorry, she whispered, her voice weaker now. I think I'm going to die. Dae Hyun's eyes widened. What are you saying? Don't say that. Ji Hyun rushed forward. Min Seo, no, what do you mean? But before she could answer, the physician moved quickly to her side, checking her pulse, then lifting her blanket. His face turned grim. She has complications, he said quietly. Her blood, it's infected. It's spreading fast. No, Dae Hyun's voice cracked. No, no. The room erupted into a quiet panic. Min Seo, her breaths now shallow, reached out her hand. Jialmi, please. Let me hold him, one last time. With trembling arms, Ji Hyun brought the baby forward and gently placed him into Min Seo's embrace. She looked down at him, so small, so helpless, and her tears rolled freely. I'm sorry, she whispered to her son. I'm sorry for what I did. I am a bad mother, but I hope you survive. I hope you live, my little one. She turned to Ji Hyun, her hands already shaking. Please take care of him, please. And don't tell him I was such a terrible person. Lie to him if you must. Tell him I was the best woman you ever knew. Ji Hyun's lips quivered, trying to hold it together, but the tears were already falling. Then Min Seo looked into Ji Hyun's eyes, and said something no one expected. I know, your secret. Ji Hyun's breath hitched. Her eyes widened. But it doesn't matter, Min Seo said with a soft smile. I know that you're kind and you're pure. You'll protect my baby. I know you will. Then she pressed the baby gently back into Ji Hyun's arms. I'm leaving him with you. Dae Hyun, who had been frozen until now, suddenly broke down. His legs buckled, and he dropped to his knees beside her. No. I won't let you die. Please, Min Seo. I'll leave everything, I'll take care of you and our baby. You don't have to do this. Nothing else matters anymore, just you, just us. But Min Seo slowly reached out, wiping the tears from his face with shaking fingers. Do you love me, Dae Hyun? She asked softly. Or are you saying this out of duty and regret? Dae Hyun met her eyes with a raw, broken honesty. I love you. I always did. Since we were teenagers. Long before you noticed me. Long before I helped you with your shoe when you fell in the courtyard, I had always thought you were the most beautiful person I had ever seen. Min Seo's face lit up with a soft, peaceful smile. Her tears came again, but this time, they weren't painful, they were warm, grateful. That's all I wanted to hear, she whispered. And with that, she closed her eyes. Her body went still. Min Seo was gone. The room stood in silence. Min Seo's last breath had left her, and the room that once held the soft coos of a newborn and whispered apologies now echoed with disbelief. Dae Hyun was the first to break. The tears came fast, and they came hard. His knees hit the floor beside her lifeless body as he clutched her hand like he could somehow bring her back if he just held on tight enough. Min Seo, no, please, don't do this, he whispered, over and over, like a prayer turned into a desperate plea. Kyung-hoon stood frozen, his lips trembling, eyes glassy. Min-suk quietly turned away, trying and failing to hide the tears that streamed down his face. And Ji-hyun. Ji-hyun stood still, cradling the baby in trembling arms, lips pressed together, eyes burning with sorrow. Even Sun-hee, who had been so strong, so composed, couldn't stop the tears. She wrapped her arms around Ji-hyun, grounding them both as the grief in the room became unbearable. But what no one knew, what no one saw, was the woman watching from just outside the door. Madame O. She had come quietly, unable to keep herself away when she heard the commotion. And when she saw Min Seo's pale body lying motionless, something inside her shattered. She didn't say a word. She turned and ran. Down the hallway, around the corner, straight to the prison where Lady Han was still locked away. She burst through the doors, panting and wild-eyed. Lady Han looked up, still defiant, until she saw Madame O's face. "She's gone," Madame O gasped. "Min Seo is gone." Everything in Lady Han's face changed. Her body didn't move, but the life drained from her eyes. Her lips parted slightly, but no sound came out. Her chest rose, and then stayed still. Like even breathing became too much. Madame O stepped forward, tears falling freely now. "I let you do everything you wanted. I told myself it was fate, that it was written. I turned my face away when you schemed, when you destroyed everything in your path. I thought it was your destiny. That everything would still work out, but now." She covered her mouth, shaking her head, sobbing. "Now she's dead," she choked out. "She died because she couldn't get the help she needed. I didn't even know you made her to hide her pregnancy, suffer through it alone." Still, Lady Han said nothing. She just sat there. Lifeless. Like the news had emptied her soul. Madame O slumped to the ground beside the prison bars, wiping her face with trembling hands. "I was her grandmother. And I wasn't there. I didn't protect her. I didn't stop you. All I can do now is pray, that her baby lives. That maybe he can be the light she never got to have." But the silence remained. And in that prison cell, Lady Han sat like a statue. No tears. No reaction. Just emptiness. As the tension in the room slowly settled, Ji-hyun turned to the physician with quiet desperation in his eyes. "What will happen to the baby?" he asked. The physician sighed and shook his head gently. "He's fighting for his life. You must keep him warm. If he makes it through the night, he'll likely survive. But if not," he trailed off. The silence that followed was heavier than any scream. Ji-hyun swallowed hard, nodding. He wrapped the baby tighter in layers of warm cloth, holding him close to his chest. He could feel the faintest breaths, labored, weak, but there. Suddenly, the heavy doors creaked open, and a soldier burst into the room. Everyone looked up, startled. "There's a message," the soldier announced, breathless. He handed a folded parchment directly to Kyung-hoon. Kyung-hoon opened it quickly, his brow furrowing. The letter was written in harsh, confident strokes, from none other than Commander Yo, the Een Army's ruthless leader whose infamous cruelty was well known. The note read, "Your Majesty, why are you hiding? Are you afraid? I'm waiting." Kyung-hoon's face darkened with fury. He crushed the note in his hand. That arrogant bastard. He turned to Tae-jin, who was still kneeling beside Min Seo's body, tears dried on his face, eyes hollow with grief. "Tae-jin," Kyung-hoon said gently but firmly. "You can't drown in sorrow. Not now. I know what she meant to you, but your people need you. I need you. And that baby, your son, he needs you too." For a moment, Tae-jin didn't move. But then, he nodded slowly. With one final, lingering gaze at Min Seo's lifeless face, he pressed a trembling kiss to her forehead. His voice cracked as he whispered, "Goodbye, my love. Then he stood, looking at Dae Hyun, who was now seated, the baby still bundled tightly in his arms. "Protect him," Dae Hyun, Tae Jin said. "He's all I have left of Min Seo." Dae Hyun met his eyes and nodded silently, his arms tightening just a bit around the infant. Kyung Hoon stepped forward, placing a hand on Dae Hyun's shoulder. "I love you," he said quietly, voice barely above a whisper, intimate and raw. Dae Hyun looked up, surprised, but touched. He gave a small, tired smile. "Come back alive," he said. With that, the three men, Kyung Hoon, Tae Jin, and Min Suk, walked out together, off to face the threat that loomed just beyond the palace walls. Meanwhile, Sunhee stood to the side, her hands trembling. Her heart pounded in her chest. "This kingdom. It's falling apart," she murmured. "And this poor child, born in such dark times." She turned to Dae Hyun, tears swimming in her eyes. But Dae Hyun wasn't shaken. He looked down at the fragile baby, now softly clutching his sleeve. "He chose life," Dae Hyun said, his voice full of quiet conviction. "The moment he held my finger, he told me he wanted to live. And I will protect him with all that I have." As the maids gently began to remove Min Seo's body from the room, Dae Hyun whispered to the tiny baby in his arms, "You're not alone. I'll protect you. I'll keep you safe. No matter what." Outside, a storm brewed. But inside that quiet chamber, a fragile thread of hope clung to life. Thanks for watching. Do like and subscribe for the remaining episodes of The Prince Bride.